Welcome back to another episode of Off the Carousel here on the field of 68. My name is Rob Dahlstrom. I'm joined today by new LaSalle head coach Darris Nichols, who did me the honor of recording this on his 38th birthday. Darris, what's going on, man? It's
30,
good to see
30,
you.
30, 30, 39. I
Okay.
think Wikipedia is wrong. If somebody wants to pay money and update it, they can, but 39.
Okay. So Google got the date right, but Google did not get the age right. 39th birthday. But
Yeah.
you wanted to spend it with me, man. I'm honored. I'm touched.
Oh yeah, Field of 68. I'm a big fan. I honestly I watch a lot of the stuff you guys do, and I like learning from other people. So, a lot of stuff you guys do, I can learn a lot from it. So, you know, appreciate you having me on.
I appreciate you jumping on, man. It's what's wild is that you're turning 39 today, and this is going to be your fifth season as a head coach. It feels like you
Right.
could still be out there playing if you really wanted to.
Well, I mean, it may look like it, but it don't feel like it. Like I can get out there and shoot and all that stuff, but I'm watching NBA games now, and I'm looking at dudes that are my age or dudes that I played against, and I'm thinking, there's no way. So yeah, testament to those guys, man. They that been doing it for a long period of time.
What have you what have you taken away from the experience that you've kind of had as a head coach? Because you're young
Yeah,
and kind of compared to some of the guys that are still in the business, but I mean, 5 years as a head coach, you get a lot of experience during
yeah.
those years. So what have you kind of taken away from that?
I think the biggest thing was like just how much your words mean,
Hmm.
how powerful your words are, how much players are looking at you and evaluating you. All the years as an assistant, it was funny. I'm at the University of Florida. You're an assistant and you have one of those team meetings before the night meetings before a game. Everybody's kind of in the room cutting up. As an assistant, the head coach walks in and then it gets all quiet. And that's something I had to deal with my first year at Radford. I remember we're on the road and same situation, team meeting. Night before, everybody's laughing, joking. We're just sitting there. And I call one of my players over. I'm at one table, one of the players at the other table. I say, the guy's name is Brian Hart. I said, B Hart, come here. The whole room got quiet. And I'm like, and I said, hold on, guys. I was just an assistant coach a few months ago. And if I did this, the room wouldn't skip a beat. Why are y'all treating me like this? He's not in trouble. He's fine. I just want to talk to him. It's just different. It's just a different feel.
Right. Is there, I feel like you do have an advantage though when you're a little bit closer than age to
Yeah,
some of the guys that you are coaching, right? But it's also a double-edged sword because you want to be able to, there's a fine line, right? Being the coach, being the guy that's kind of making the rules, making sure that everything's in place and doing it the way you want to be able to do, while also being able to have enough of a relationship where the culture that you have in your locker room is one of positivity and everyone's getting along and you're having fun. And, is there, so how do you kind of manage that fine line?
I don't want to be one of those guys that's like, okay, well, this is the way college basketball has always been. I wasn't in it that long to be like, okay, well, this is what it is. All the years of assistance, even the last 4 or 5 years, like college basketball has changed so much. So, as a young coach, I still feel like I'm still adaptable. I think some of the old coaches that are still doing a great job are the ones that, okay, well, this is what it is. Let me adjust or get out of this thing. Um, but I think the biggest thing is like not worrying about stuff you can't control. Everybody's worried about the transfer portal, NIL, and complaining. I'm like, I mean, we can't control it. So like, how do we adapt? How do we navigate it with the places that I've been to that have been different than how another school may navigate it. So I just don't worry about that stuff. Like, for example, my dad, worked in a factory for over 30 years, and a lot of times, this is better than working in a factory.
Yeah.
So I just don't worry about that.
Yeah, it definitely is, man. It definitely is. You mentioned kind of older coaches in the business. I don't know if there was and I would say this to him, so I don't mind saying it here.
Yeah,
I don't know if there was an older coach in college basketball than Fran Dunphy.
right.
You're stepping into the shoes of a guy that is as Big Five basketball as Big Five basketball can get. What have you been able to kind of take away from him? Have you been able to pick his
Yeah.
brain at all about the what you're walking into when it comes to Philly sports and Philly basketball, and specifically the Big Five.
Yeah, I haven't, and he still works here on campus, so I see him quite a bit. We talk, I'll call, he always picks up, he's been helpful. We just haven't been able to like sit down and like really talk about, everything and all the experiences that he's gone through. He's been helping me navigate, okay, the team, what I walked into and all of those things. But um, the biggest thing with him is like you just hear so many stories about like positive stories about, people that know him, lives that he's impacted. So and that's the reason why I got into coaching. And then you're following a legend like Dumph, and you get the job, and people are calling you, hey man, make sure you talk to Dumph, make sure you talk to everybody's saying the same thing. So the legacy that he's left in college basketball, not just Big Five basketball, is really special.
Yeah, he's gonna know the best cheesesteak spots. He's gonna know the best places to go get meatball subs, man. Like you got to pick
Oh
his brain
yeah,
on that more than anything else.
oh yeah, oh yeah.
Take me through what these. I guess you've been in the job for what, almost 3 months now. What, 2.5 months?
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
around that. Yeah,
what does that process look like? We were just talking before we hit record that you now have
yeah.
enough kids on campus to be able to play pickup, but it wasn't always like that when you get the job, right? So
No,
I don't know how many fans that listen to this realize like you're walking into a situation where uh there are a number of guys that are currently on campus on the team that are also
yeah,
in the portal and leaving, and
yeah,
the
yeah,
guys that you are bringing in are on their other campus in the portal, like waiting to get like. So how do you kind of
yeah,
navigate this process of building a roster when the roster that you have on campus
yeah,
is all heading elsewhere, and the guys that you got to bring in haven't
yeah.
gotten there yet?
It's different. I mean, from 4 years ago. So when I first got the Radford job, 4 years ago, I think the Radford job was the last job filled that cycle,
Hmm.
or maybe the second to last. It was one of the, it was in May. So I got the job really late. And then you have a team meeting. Like back then you had team meetings when you got the job, you're sitting down, you're talking to the players. I don't know if people are having team meetings anymore because you get to these campuses and there is no team. I mean, I know Calipari said it last year, but you get to the campus and half of them are in the portal. So it's kind of like you just call the guys that you want to come back, and if they want to come back, great. If not, like I think the hardest part navigating the portal is, and I really believe this, it's not necessarily who you lose, it's when you lose them.
Right.
Like if you have a player who you think is coming back for 3 straight weeks, and then all of a sudden, that fourth or fifth wave of the portal when guys miss out on who they wanted to get, then they come and get your guy. Um, and you've been preparing and missing out on, official visits for 3 weeks. I'd rather tell me the first day if you're leaving. I don't care who leaves, but just let me know the first day.
Right.
So that's the hard part about navigating. It's just so different when I got the job, and it's only been 4 years when I got it here, and I'm like, I can't. I'm not doing the same thing I did 4 years ago. That's a totally different model.
Yeah, it's a learning process for everyone. And I think that I hope that there's a point where we get to a happy medium in all this, right? Because
Yeah,
I don't know if it's healthy for the sport. I don't know if it's healthy for the people involved in the sport, the coaches, the fans, the players themselves, to have this much turnover every single season. It becomes I cover this 24/7, right? I think about college basketball 9 to 5 every single day, 365 days a year. And the other day I was looking at some of these rosters and I had completely forgotten like who half of these starting lineups are going to be, and half of these
yeah,
kids are ending up at these places. It just there's got to be a way that we can get to a point that the incentive is not to enter the portal and try to drive up a bidding war, right? The
yeah,
incentive is to come back to school while still being able to find a way to make your market value, whatever that ends up being.
yeah. I've talked to like NBA scouts, and this made their job a lot harder. Where they're trying to get out and see
Mhm.
games in the preseason. They're like, I told one of them, I said, man, just grab one of those back magazines, grab a Athlon magazine or something. I don't know, but like it's really hard to, it's made it harder on everybody. But I think the people who really like the portal are probably the old guys that played at each university because their records will never be broken.
Yeah.
Whatever record is at that university is there to stay.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Unless you have a guy that ends up staying for 5 years and gets the second COVID year,
they not staying at one school for 5 years.
So, I live up here now. I live outside Philly. I live in Mount Laurel, New Jersey.
Gotcha.
I'm not a Philly guy, but I'm raising kids that are going to end up being Philly guys. You know, my son booed an ump the other day watching his friend's little league game. Right? He walks down the street and sees his buddies and they're yelling "Go Birds" at each other.
Yeah.
Are you ready for what you're walking into when it comes to like Philly sports fandom?
Yeah, I am ready. I mean, I already know what it is. Obviously I've recruited Philly. I've spent, a lot of time here over the years. So I know they're passionate. I mean, why wouldn't you want to come to a place where people care?
Mhm.
I'd rather have that than, you go into a situation where nobody cares. But the good thing about it is a lot of the guys, are from this area that we've recruited. They understand it. They understand the challenge, and they also understand, okay, I want to leave a legacy on a place. Like, how can I do that in 1 year? Because that's really what it is. Like, you're not staying anywhere for 4 years, 3 years, and leaving a legacy. Like, let's leave a legacy in 1 year, and that's winning.
Right. Well, so how do you make that happen, right? The Sal basketball, for people that don't know, there's a lot of history and tradition there, right? From Lionel Simmons to Rasul Butler to Tim Legler, Doug Overton, Gary Neal, Tom Gola, the
Yeah,
19, the title they wanted was at 1954, right?
54. Yeah,
Yeah. So there's history there. There's guys that made the NBA out of this program. But it's also been a while since we've seen that consistently. You had the
yeah.
Sweet 16 run in 2013. That's the only tournament the program has made since 1992. How do you get this back to a place that is competing for A10 championships? Like, we know the
Yeah,
talent's in the city, right? Like, we see Philly
yeah.
kids all over the place, right? So how do you get this program back to competing for A10 championships and making tournaments?
I think toughness. And I've said this before. I called Billy Donovan it was two summers ago, and I asked him. I said, if you was back in college, like, what would be the most important thing to you? And he said, the rules are different. It's hard to make guys tougher because you have them for 1 year.
Hmm.
Some of these guys are 24, 25. You can't practice for 4 hours like people did back in the day. So how can you make somebody tougher? It's not even a full year when they're on campus. It's a few months, 7 months. And he said, I would really evaluate toughness. And so sometimes, like, we'll sacrifice more skill because, in the portal, that's what a lot of guys are paying for: skill, skill, skill. But we feel like, okay, let's get the toughest guys we can find. It's kind of the same way we did at Radford and competing against, some schools there that may, be a little more resourced. Um, but toughness is the biggest skill, especially in the age where, guys, you got to get guys to play hard. And a lot of times, some of these guys making $3 million a year, they feel like they made it already. So you got to find guys that really, really love ball and play really hard. And I think that's what we did in the portal.
Has it been tough to navigate that, right? Like, when you got into the business and you were coaching at a very high level, as some, I think when you were with Mike White at Louisiana Tech and then got to Florida when you were what, 29, 30, something like that?
Yeah, me and Mincy, we were like the youngest assistants in the SEC. I think it was 27.
Right. So you're at this level at a young age and you're
Yeah,
coaching kids that's before NIL. That's
yeah,
when you're still like coaching college kids that happen to
right.
be really good basketball players. And now you're essentially coaching professionals that are taking college classes online, more or less.
Yeah.
Has there been a difference in the way that you can kind of coach them and the way that you've experienced that from your perspective?
I don't think so. It may impact some other coaches where they may be saying, okay, hey man, we're paying you $500,000. You got to get this done and whatever. But I look at it like this. You still have to develop the relationship.
Right.
because at any job, even if you're, not even playing, it's not basketball related. At any job, when you're an adult, you don't just have a great work environment just because you're getting paid. You still have to create that environment. So some people are looking at these student athletes like, oh, we're paying you all this money, so you should just do this. No, you still have to have the relationship piece of it. Because
Mhm.
at any job, if you don't have good relationships, working relationships, it's not going to work.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just like that in life, right? Like if it doesn't matter what the paycheck is, if you don't
Right.
have the kind of relationship with the players in your program, or your staff doesn't have the relationship with them, you can't coach them the way you need to be able to coach them. It's I think uh Frank Martin is the guy that talks about this the best and is the perfect example of it, right? Where like he
Hmm.
looks like the most intimidating human being in the history of sports when he's on the sideline yelling at kids.
Yeah.
And I think all of the guys that have played for him that have lasted for 4 years will run through a brick wall before.
Yeah.
It's because you got to be able to show them that you care about them while being able to coach them. And I don't think that changes just
No.
because there's a paycheck involved.
Nah, and it shouldn't. And if it does, then those people are in it for the wrong reason.
Right. How do you develop that relationship when you don't have 4 years to do it? I think that's the hardest
Yeah.
part of this.
I think just spending time. Like, we our guys are in the office all the time. Like, we try to create different ways to get them in the office consistently.
Hmm.
I don't want it to be I don't want it to be like the principal's office when, if I call a player and I say, "Hey man, come see me today," and their first instinct is like, "Oh man, like I haven't created a great environment."
Right.
So we'll do things like, put gear in the office instead of the locker room. And then some guys are, complaining like, "Man, I ain't getting any gear." I'm like, "You never come to the office."
That's smart.
So, you
Yeah,
never
you
know.
messing them
Like,
a little bit, man. I like
yeah,
that.
yeah. So I mean, we just do creative things like that. And you got to just have certain touch points. We like to create meetings without having a meeting. To where, I'm walking across campus and I know guys are over there across campus eating. Okay, they see me. That's a meeting without a meeting. And you have to do more of that because you have these guys for a short amount of time.
Right.
And I think I don't think it's any harder. I don't think it's any harder just because you have guys for a short amount of time than opposed to 4 years. Because a lot of guys we get are coming from a situation into a new situation where they're more appreciated or they feel more appreciated. So it's worked out for us.
Take me through your decision to leave Radford and have LaSalle be the place that you left it for. For people
Yeah,
that are listening don't know, you're from Radford, right? You grew up in
right.
Radford, Virginia, and I'm sure that added a level of complication to uh,
Yeah,
leaving. So why LaSalle? Why this program? Why
yeah.
now? Why was this the right time?
Um, it was really hard leaving home, because my mom and dad are still there. They live 2 minutes
Hmm.
from campus. They came to every game. My brother's on my staff here. He's on my staff at Radford as well. Um, it was just, the Atlantic 10. You look at the history of coaches leaving the Big South. A lot of them haven't had that Atlantic 10 jump. And then the beauty of it is everybody's like, oh, when I was going through the process, oh, it's a hard job. It's a hard job. I don't care. I'm like, all these jobs are hard. Like I like challenges. Um, I know this is a challenge, and it's fun to take a job and then create and put your own stamp on it. Um, so for me, it was like it's the Atlantic 10. People want to say, I don't know how you want to win there. I don't know. We'll figure it out. That's what coaches are supposed to do.
Yeah, I like that mindset. It's a hard job. Well, it's Division
Yeah,
One basketball. Every job's a
yeah,
hard job, man.
yeah. And it's funny. It's funny, because a lot of people were saying, it's going to be a Philly guy. It's going to be this guy. It's going to be this guy. I'm cool with a lot of the Philadelphia guys, and grassroots and all that. And then,
Mhm.
it hits that I get the job and, they're calling me, man, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you tell me? I said, man, I had to come through the back door.
Well, is that because people from Virginia tend
Yeah.
to be fans of certain NFL franchises that maybe
Nah, I ain't doing
were
that. You ain't getting me in trouble. Go Birds. You ain't doing that one. Nope.
Yeah, there you
Nope, go
go, man.
Birds.
You sniffed that one out quick, huh?
Yep.
All right. I'll leave you with this. So with the new roster coming in, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Eric Acker is the one guy that you got returning, right?
Right.
How many times did you play him one on one, by the way, when you were waiting for everyone else to get to campus?
It was funny because we were doing workouts, and um, obviously he's putting it on, the schedule. Workout at 2 o'clock, workout at 3, whatever. And so I just told him, I said, hey, we're gonna do a little team workout tomorrow. Um, and then he's like, what are you talking about? I said, we're gonna do something different, a team workout. It was still him. It was still him. It was like he's like the gif of Will Smith when he's
Yeah,
the last episode where he's just standing in the living room. That's him.
sitting in the empty
That was
living room.
him.
Yeah.
But we got some guys on campus now though. So, but he was like Will Smith for a few weeks.
Oh, look at that! You're making Will Smith and Fresh Prince references here as a Philly coach
There
in
we
Philly.
go.
So you
There we
picked it up quick, man. You figured it
go.
out. You
I'm
connected those
adaptable.
dots. Let's end it with this. What does a successful season look like for LaSalle basketball in their first year under Darris Nichols?
Um, no, that's a good question. Let's say 20 wins at least.
20 wins that gets you a postseason invitation somewhere. 20 wins. Feels like the goal that most coaches have heading into a season, but you should be able to accomplish.
Yeah, and I think a part of that is like scheduling as well. So 20 wins at certain places are like 28 at other places,
Mhm.
depending on how many guaranteed games you have to play. And, Radford, I had to play quite a few. And, a lot of people don't realize that. So different places, require a different amount of guarantees. So I think that's a attainable goal.
Well, listen, man. I appreciate your time. Best of luck this season. I got to get over there to Tom Gola Arena at some point
Come on, bring
this
your
year to come
son
see
down
you
here.
guys. Yeah, we will, man. We will. Yeah, I
Uh,
think I got him hooked, man.
yeah.
He's heavy into baseball every spring, but I think basketball
How
is what
old
they
is
have
he?
him. He is 9. He turns 10 in August, but now it's instead of going outside and Dad, can we go hit off the tee? Dad, can I go practice pitching? It's been you come home from baseball practices, Dad, you want to go shoot. Let's go out in the driveways, get some up. So
There you
yeah,
go.
yeah, he might I think he caught the bug, so hopefully
Well,
that
tell him the new head coach of LaSalle wants him at our season opener, and well, I have to leave him
yeah,
tickets, so I'm gonna convert him.
all I got to do is tell him that you said go birds, and I think he's gonna be locked in. So Darius, I appreciate the time, man.